Leona, are you okay to start recording?
Yes,
thank you.
Done.
There we go. Thank you very much. Afternoon, welcome to the meeting of the Planning Applications Committee. I am Councillor Annette Ireland. I'm chair to the committee. I'd like to welcome the members of the committee, the elected members here today. We have Provost Jim Fletcher, Councillor Miller, Councillor Swift and Councillor Convery. The officers present are Julie Nichol, Planning and Building Standards Manager, Alan Pepler, Principal Planner, Management, John Drugan, Senior Planner, Derek Scott, Planner, Siobhan Wilson, Legal Advisor, Sharon McIntyre, Clerk to Planning Applications Committee, and Leona Allison, Assistant Committee Services Officer. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, Councillor, we've got apologies from Councillors Cunningham and McLean.
Thank you very much. We've got 2 items before us today. Do we have any declarations of interest? Thank you very much. I'll move on to the first item, which is agenda item number 3, which is reference number 2021-0566, the re-engineering of the Levern Water, including new river channel, replacement banking, landscaping, providing green space, seating and path links, modification of the weir at Carley Bar, a replacement footbridge to the rear of the foundry and improvements to the ramp connecting Carley Bar to Main Street and Walton Street Barhead. Mr. Pepler, can I bring you in to introduce the application?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Just briefly, I'll introduce it and then pass it over to John to go through the report briefly. So the application is a major application for river improvement and other associated landscaping works to the Levern Water adjacent to Barhead Town Centre. I'll pass over to John if you can take us through the report, John. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll just share the presentation screen with you if you like some of the comments earlier on. I'm not exactly the best at computers, so hopefully you're now seeing the title there.
Yep, that's fine. Okay,
thank you. So as Alan says, this is a major application. It's a major application because of the size of the area it covers. It's roughly 2.4 hectares and it's by the Environment Department. It's for engineering works and it runs, as we said, from Church Road through to roughly Calibar Primary School, roughly a distance of 470 metres length. The principal aims of the proposal are to improve the quality of the water. Sorry, I'm just realised I've not moved this on. Beg your pardon, Councillor. As I say this, there we go. So, by the way. So the principal aims. Sorry, Councillor, I don't know how you go backwards in this. Right, there we go. Right, beg your pardon, there you go. So it runs from Glen Street in the west through to roughly Calibar Primary School in the east. Principal aims are to improve the water quality of the area, to improve the green space and walkways within the area, and also as a result of it, there may well be a small change in the flood risk to the properties adjacent to Church Road and Glen Street. There's no representations on the planning application. We've not had any objections from any consultees either. The applicant has submitted a flood risk assessment, ecologist report and an invasive species report, all highlighting that there is some protected species in the area and invasive species as well, such as knotweed. So the proposal is will take into account these elements, and there is mitigation through the ecologist report, which is one of the conditions. The application is required to be assessed against the Scottish planning policies. In particular, there's a policy on vacant derelict land and the policy on managing flood risk. In terms of the local development plan, the strategies policies 1 and 2, as per the report. Policy D1, D4, 5 and 9 with 13 E3, E4 and SG1. The proposal was concluded that there doesn't raise any significant issues in terms of these policies, and there's no significant impact on any protected species. Also complies with the government's SPP. So therefore it was recommended for approval, subject to conditions. So in terms of the detail of the proposal, I need to draw the attention to the committee. This drawing is slightly out of date. Since this information was originally submitted, the applicant is carrying out site investigations, and it now looks like this sort of, if you can see this sort of S shape, is actually going to be straightened out a wee bit, so that it's not quite as an S shape as that. It shouldn't make any significant difference to the proposal. The area of wetland is going to be created to the north of the Leven Water, and the idea of this is when there is a spate, that this area will flood around actually the adjacent properties and Church Road. You can see in the drawing below the arrangements that are going to be put in place. So there's basically the engineering works to change the ground levels, particularly to the north, to allow that to flood. This area will be planted up with wetland species, which is all good for biodiversity. And then this is the bit further around, as you can see, Calabar School on the north there. And this is just showing you roughly what they're doing in terms of and within the river they're putting in, I can't remember what they called it, but it's basically boulders and stones which will riffle, that's it, sorry, beg your pardon. It will create the movement within the water, it will create oxidization within the water, and it will also regulate the speed of the water. And then it comes round, as I said, to further around here. There's this, I think that's the bowling club there, isn't it? Yep. Bowling club in the top left and the school on the right. So it comes around like that. There's no impact or change according to the flood risk assessment further downstream, I'm afraid. Sorry, councillors, I think that's the end of it, unless you wish to go back to the beginning. Sorry, is that okay, councillor? Anything else you wish to know about it? Other than, sorry, I should beg your pardon. So we are recommending it for approval.
Thank you so much for going through that. I'm just going to open out to the committee if there's any comments or questions for you. Councillor Convery.
Thank you very much. 2 seconds. Can I just say that I wholeheartedly support this development? I mean, it is a large area, as you said, but it's laid, part of it's laid derelict for far too long. It used to be the old council borough yard. And it's just, all it is used for a hiding spot for teenagers to have drinking sessions at the weekend, and by unscrupulous people who dump their old furniture and their rubbish. So I welcome this and I look forward to it. I've just got 3 quick questions and a comment. So I was glad to see that there is another ecological impact assessment that was done in February of this year, because I was aware that the last one was done back in 2020, and then you've said there's going to be another one done closer to when it starts. That's good. My question is, well, it was, but I've just noticed as well, see the grassy area at the back of the path, I've just noticed that it says on it future development for houses, so I take it that's why that's not getting done. And one of my other questions is do you know how this is going to affect the burn further downstream? Is it going to have any effect, say, like where the takeaways are, like the Chinese takeaway and that? Because I know that floods quite a lot. And on, see the picture that you just showed us, is that the bit at the start where Glen Street and that is? Because I was kind of confused, I couldn't work out where that is. Is that the kind of bit where the borough yard used to be, the kind of derelict bit? Is that? That's me. Thank you.
Thank you. John, are you wishing to, can you come in on those questions, please?
Yes, Chair. Yes, sorry, just to confirm, this first drawing that you're talking about, Councillor Convery, this is the former bacon factory up at back here, I think, and this is and this was a council, or there was a council proposal for a housing site in here, but part of this was taken out because of the flood implications. In terms of your question about the further flooding further downstream, as I said, in the flood risk assessment that was undertaken by AECOM engineers on behalf of the council, or the Environment Department, I should say, doesn't show any substantial improvements down at the area that you're talking about, where the takeaways are, etc. But my understanding is that this has been designed to try to slow down the flow rate of the water.
Yeah.
So that might make a difference, but the engineers aren't saying it will. We couldn't say for certain.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking it was going to make it better. I was worried that it was going to make it worse. But obviously, as you say, I mean, it's been designed to actually slow down the flow of water. So hopefully it will have a good impact on them further downstream.
Yes, Councillor. Sorry, it certainly will not make any flooding downstream worse, according to the information we have.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to that. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Miller?
Thank you very much, Chair. You talked about knotweed, John. I take it that all that knotweed will be getting taken out and burnt or whatever, just to get rid of it. I take it that there'll be a fence along the riverside, so just basically for safety, because you're back to back with the school and obviously the Barhead walkway. And the third thing, Angela just mentioned, that is there going to be space for future housing? Or I think there's no housing in this application, but there will be space for future housing.
Thank you. John, are you wishing to come in?
Stuart, can I just say there's never been a fence along the water, ever?
No, I realise that, but if they're going to be realigning the river,
Been a fence
I thought putting a fence along there, because I'd hate to see somebody falling in.
Julie, are you wishing to come in?
Just in relation to the housing site, thank you, Chair. The part of it, as John said, part of the housing site, as was allocated in the adopted plan, has been removed. So that sits within the red line site. But what was the bacon factory site, I think, is still allocated. So there is still an opportunity for some housing close to the site, if that helps.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you. Provost?
Thank you, Chair. I think Angela probably answered most of it. I do remember a few years ago when we launched the Beat the Street in Barhead down there, some of the local schools took part, and we put some of the machines along the walkway and at the bridge there, and kind of walked around the site. And I have to say, it was, visually it was okay. There was a steady stream of locals crossing the bridge to shop in Main Street and whatever. But like everything else, it can always be made better. So I do understand, the main purpose of this is flood control and wherever, and as such, it probably needs to be done. And I'm certainly supportive of that. But I just was really looking for some comfort that actually the work will make it, the area, which, as I say, is not that bad at the moment, but will make it look even better. If we're getting rid of knotweed and doing other landscaping, can the locals, as part of this, look forward to, shall we say, a better sort of landscape as they make their way from the housing into the main street?
Julie?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
The part of the work, is understand it, is to help the naturalisation of the Leven water, so it's removing engineering works, which both will help the alleviate some of the flooding, and, as John said, slow the water course down, but also will improve some of the biodiversity value in and around it by introducing more natural features and removing more of the as I say, the existing engineering works. Just by way of background, the funding for this is coming from 1.6 million from SEPA, and also from the Scottish Government's Vacant and Derelict Land fund as well. So there is no funding cost to the council. That is just for some background information.
On, can I begin?
Sorry, Councillor. It's just to go back to Provost Fletcher's comments. Yes, there will be sort of, and sorry, Councillor Miller, beg your pardon. In terms of the knotweed, etc., the ecological report does identify the non-native invasive species and puts forward proposals to deal with it. I'm sure you're well aware that these species can be sometimes elusive, but my understanding is to try to deal with it and control it. The stuff will obviously require licensing from SEPA to do that, and as Julie's pointed out, SEPA are part of this project. So, you know, the aim is to try to deal with this stuff. In terms of the fencing, there's no proposal for fencing. I think the engineering works are likely, personally I would say, well, professionally I would say, sorry, is that I would have thought it would reduce the requirement for fencing, Councillor, because as you can see from the bottom sketch there, the idea is to grade the land down towards the burn or the river, as opposed to, you know, something like a 3-4 metre drop in places. So with engineering works, I think it's likely to reduce the requirement of a fence if you're talking about purely from a health and safety perspective. In terms of housing, Julie's obviously answered that, but I think, again, I think what Julie's touching on is that this will, I think, improve the how this will appear. It will look like an improvement rather a bit of land that's either set aside or not doing anything, and hopefully with the path networks and improvements to the bridges and all the stuff further downstream, it will bring people into the area, and it will give them, you know, somewhere that, as we all know, with the recent pandemic, people are taking to walking more and exploring their areas. I think it will give them an opportunity to go down there and look at the water, and, you know, hopefully there'll be a decent landscaping scheme put in place from that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Convery.
Thank you. Something else has just popped into my head. So is this getting done in stages? Because what I'm concerned about is that you're just going to close down both the bridges, and that stops people because it is really well used for people walking up to the main street, and I just know that if access through there is going to be stopped altogether, then it's going to be an issue for the locals. So I was just wondering, is it going to be done in stages and then leave the rest open and just move along?
Thank you very much. John, can you answer that? Is there anything in any of the conditions that applies to this at all?
There's not a specific condition on phasing. There is the ecology report, which does sort of set out how they're going to do things. Certainly, there's no reason why we couldn't ask if the council so wishes to put on a condition. I don't think it'd be an issue for the developer, specifically asking for a phasing approach to be adopted.
Yeah, because if you close down both bridges, then I think it's going to be an issue.
I think that's a really good idea. If you can take that on board, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Councillor Swift.
Thank you very much, Chair. Obviously, like everybody else, I'm going to welcome the improvement to you know, our urban green space pretty much across the whole of East Renfrewshire, and whether it be Barrhead or Newton Mearns or wherever, it's got to be a good thing. Obviously, it's even better still when somebody else is paying for it, and you know, I'm not going to ever moan about somebody else picking up the bill for improving things. I'm going to ask the extent of flooding upstream or downstream. How bad has it been in the past? Because I'm not cognizant of any particular flooding issues, and I know it's not part of my ward or anything like that, but I've certainly not heard of particularly acute flooding issues, either by what caused by water backing up or downstream of this. But I'd be keen to hear, please, if that's possible.
Thank you very much. Can anyone come in? Any answer to that question? John?
I can only speak in terms of the plan application and the modelling. It was undertaken by the Flood Risk Assessment Councillor. The flood risk assessment, in terms of the 50%, I can actually show. I don't know if it's worthwhile try to show you this stuff, but there is. It looks like in a 0.2% chance of flooding that there's substantial flooding down at the Glasgow roadside. In terms of this, the side that, as per the slide that's on at the moment, the Church Road side, it looks like, again, in extreme cases, there's flooding that covers this area and part of Church Road, Glen Street.
Okay.
Now, that's the extreme cases, I must say. I need to point out, there is, in less extreme cases, still some flooding, especially downstream, but my understanding is predominantly over the east side of the Glasgow roadside, and it doesn't breach the road itself. But as I say, I've no local knowledge that could actually speak on that point.
Councillor Conway, can I bring you in? Oh, sorry, Jim.
No, I was just going to say perhaps Angela does, because she's got her hand up.
I'll bring her in. Councillor Convery?
Yeah, it's always handy to have a local. Sorry, I just keep coming in all the time. But further down, as John said, down at the Glasgow Road end, so there's a number of bridges along this. So you've got the bridges that you can see to the primary school, and then further down there's another bridge where there's a nursing home. So there's a bridge there, and just a wee bit further down there's another bridge where the Glasgow Road goes across, and then that takes a bend to the Chinese. We'll see in between the last two bridges, there's a set of houses. I think it's 4 or 5 blocks. I can't remember, but I think it's 4 or 5 blocks. And when they flood,
right,
the bridges seem to back the water up. So you can look over the bridge and there's like maybe 3 or 4 inches for the top of the bridge to the water. So those houses do flood quite bad. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Angela. Much appreciated.
Alan, can I bring you in?
Yes, thanks. Just a couple of brief points. I mean, just in terms of the role of SEPA, I mean, they're the flood risk authority, and they also have a remit in terms of river management. So while the primary purpose is for the naturalisation of the river, so it's environmental benefits, it's biodiversity benefits, and also there's a landscape community benefit. The flood management is also a positive as well, while it's not the primary positive. So I don't think from a planning authority we have any concerns at all about flood risk, given the involvement of SEPA and the engineering information we've got. And as John said, we understand it's a marginal improvement. And just briefly also on the phasing issue, condition 4 is about construction related work. So there's a standard phrase we can put into that condition which refers to phasing as well. So what I would suggest is we just say development shall not commence until construction related works and phasing information is provided. Thanks.
That would be fantastic. Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing that up, Councillor Convery. I think that's great that we've added that. I do have a very quick question. I noticed that there was mention of waters in the report of handling. Is this covered, and that there would be further investigation? Is this covered in any of the conditions at all? John?
Yes, sorry, Councillor. Yeah, there will be a requirement on the applicant to undertake the mitigation measures as identified in their ecology impact assessment, and as in condition 2. So as it says there, they will have to undertake possible further surveys as required and any mitigation. So as I'm sure you were well aware, the animals don't necessarily stick to the same time scales that we have. So hence the reason why we have to have this sort of condition, because whilst the applicant has surveyed the site for protected species, such as otters and badgers and bats, by the time we go on site, that circumstance could change. So they're going to have to undertake further surveys to ensure that there's no adverse impact in these animals. Also, the ecology report does also cover even fish in the river, and about ensuring that they minimise any loss of fish in the river. So it's been quite well thought out, and I think Mark Brand and SEPA personally, I think they've put in the work that's required to understand the potential impacts of this proposal and to make sure there's proper mitigation. As I say, but condition, sorry, beg your pardon, it's condition 2. Condition 2 will cover any otters and any impact.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know. That seems to be very well thought through. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think the residents living beside this are going to be a whole happy with the changes here. So can I please move that we accept the recommendation to approve on page 12, subject to conditions, and grant planning permission? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Convery? Unless anyone's otherwise minded. That's great. Thank you very much.
Can I just confirm, is that the decision you've just made inclusive of the phasing condition, which is added to
Yes,
condition?
very much so. Yes, if those changes can be made, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so just including that development shall not commence until phasing information is provided.
Yeah.
So that's going to condition 4.
Thank you very much, Sharon.
Thank
I'll
you.
move us on to the second item, which is 2021 1010, single story extension to side of dwelling at 8 Beechwood Avenue, Clarkston. Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Chair. This is one of these applications that shouldn't really be before us, that would normally be done in delegated powers, but the lady is a member of the planning authority or the council or whatever. To me, there's no question that this should go through.
No, absolutely. I think I'm minded the same. I'm happy to move actually straight, because you're right, this wouldn't have came before us at all. This would have been dealt with delegated. I mean, I'm happy to move straight that we accept the recommendation to approve subject to conditions, because that would not have, we would not be hearing this. Councillor Swift, unless anyone's otherwise minded,
It's fine. It's fine.
You sure, Councillor Swift, because we can still hear from Alan if you wish it to be introduced.
No, it's fine.
Okay, all right. No, I'm happy to move. If I have a seconder. Councillor Miller, unless anyone's otherwise minded. I think in this case, it's probably right to move that on, because it wouldn't have came before us at all. And I'm very happy with everything that we've seen, as Councillor Miller's said. So can I pass back to yourself, Shannon, in that case?
Yes, just to confirm that the decision of the committee is to approve the planning application subject to the condition listed in the report.
Thank you very much. That's all we have before us today. I'll see you at, what date is our next meeting at, Sharon, in April?
Yep, it is in April. I think it's around about the 14th.
Is our last one.
It's the
Party
20th.
hats all around. Party hats.
20th. Sorry, Councillor.
20th. Yeah.
20th. Well, I'll see you all then. I look forward to it. So we'll move on to the LRB, but thank you very much for planning for today.
Cheerio.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.